Haribo, 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 Haribo. Hare Krishna. Okay. Jai Ram. Jai Hari. Jaya. Jaya Yamuna Chiravanachari Jaya Jaya Hari Jaya Jaya Yamuna Chiravanachari Jaya Kunjari Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunjari Hari Jaya Omidhyana Timirandasya Tinagana Salakaya Chakshur Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manabhustam Tapitam Jena Bhutale Kayam Rupa Kadamaya Tadati Sa Padantikam Ehom Shri Guru Shri Adhyavara Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagaratam Raganatan Ram Aitam Advaritam Krishna Sahitam Hitanya Radha Bandhu Bhajat Prase Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Adhevinda Vaneshwari Vishavanu Stuti Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpa Taruvascha Kripa Sindhu Vaivasa Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So I'd like to read from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, the last verse, text 30. Generally, in Prabhupada's time, we had Srimad Bhagavatam in the morning and Bhagavad Gita class at night. That was Prabhupada's program. Sadbir Bhutadir Didaiva Mam Sadhibi Bhutad Didvaiva Mam Sadhya Jnanam Chaye Vidu Prayana Kale Pichamam Te Vidu Yukta Chetasaha Bolo. Sari Bhutadi Vaiva Mam Sari Vidu Kale Pichamam Sari Bhutadi Deva Mam Lolo. Sari Bhutadi Devam Sari Bhutadi Devam Sadi Yagyam Chaye Vidu Prayana Kale Pichamam Titiyo Vikta Chetasaha Haribhuta Deva Mam Sadi Yagyam Chaye Vidu Prayana Kale Pichamam Mataji's. Saribhuta Deva Mam Sadayagam Sayaguru Yanatahani Pichamam. So Haribhuta and the governing principle of material manifestation. Aridaivam, governing all the demigods. Mam, me. Sari Agyam, and governing all sacrifices. Cha, also. Ye, those who. Vidu, know. Prayana, of death. Kale, at the time. Api, even. Cha, and. Ma, me. Te, they. Vidu, no. Yukta Chetasaha, their minds engaged in me. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation, of the demigods, and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. Responsively. Those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material manifestation, of the demigods, and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. Purport. Persons acting in Krishna consciousness are never deviated from the path of entirely understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the transcendental association of Krishna consciousness, one can understand how the Supreme Lord is the governing principle of the material manifestation and even of the demigods. Gradually, by such transcendental association, one becomes convinced of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and at the time of death, such a Krishna-conscious person can never forget Krishna. Naturally, he is thus promoted to the planet of the Supreme Lord, Goloka Vrindavan. So this is our goal. We want to be transferred to Goloka Vrindavan, where we can serve Krishna more intimately. Now we're serving Krishna, but when we have a spiritual body in Goloka Vrindavan, our service will be even more pleasing to the Lord because we can approach directly. Of course, the Vigraha is also Krishna, but still, Krishna personally, when we reach to Goloka Vrindavan, then we can render to service to that person. Just like the cowherd boys are playing with Krishna, the gopis are dancing with Krishna. So this is our goal. We want to be purified so that we can serve Krishna better. So it's not a material motive. Otherwise, every yogi, every jnani, they have some material motive. I want to have this power. I want to have this opulence. Or they have something should come to them. But the pure devotee, he doesn't have any personal motive. Ahitakiya pritiyata. Without motive. Only motive is that the Lord should be more pleased, more and more pleased with my service. So of course, that means we have to love the Lord more than ourselves. So that's the process. Otherwise, we're born with false ego. From our very birth, we love ourselves the most. We don't care if we're disturbing 100 people on the airplane. If the child is screaming, he feels he has every right to scream. And now we get a little civilized by our parents and society and so on. So we act with a little more courtesy to others, but still, we love ourselves the most. And this is the disease called false ego. So by this process of Krishna consciousness, especially in the chanting of this Maha Mantra, gradually we can get free from this false ego and develop real ego. Not like the Mayavadis say that we just become zero or we merge into the Lord, we have no identity. No, ego means identity. We have an identity. But now we are acting on a false identity under the control of the mind and senses. But the real identity is I'm a servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis who are serving Krishna in Vrindavan. That's our real identity. But we've forgotten that. And so this process of Krishna consciousness reminds us, it reawakens our original position. The position is already there, but by misuse of independence, we weren't happy with that system and we wanted to put ourselves in the center. So in the spiritual world, there's only one person in the center, the Supreme Person. This is the system in the spiritual world. And we should be happy with that because we're the amsa, we're the fragmented particle, very small, and God is very great. So this is our constitutional position, is to please Him and serve Him. Just like the hand is serving the whole body. It doesn't try to eat the food directly. It has no capacity. Similarly, we should give up this foolish attempt to enjoy this world, to exploit it and become the enjoyer. We're not meant to be Krishna is Param Purush. He's the supreme enjoyer. We can enjoy when we're being enjoyed. The example is given that husband comes home from work late at night. He wants to enjoy with his wife. So he wakes her and he enjoys her. But she also enjoys. She enjoys being enjoyed by her husband, isn't it? So female is Prakriti. So by constitution we're female. But now we're sleeping in the lap of Maya. We think we're the ego. We think we're the enjoyer. And so we make everything complicated. There's always conflict, there's always enmity and envy in this world. We want to get free from that, we have to get out of this world. There's so many attempts to make the world better, and I'm sure your parents may have told you, if you make this world a better place, then you'll be successful in life. But no. This world is meant to be troublesome. You can't make it better. You can't stop old age, disease, and death. These things are disturbing people. Why don't you just make a plan? You're going to stop old age. Can you do that? In your science, in your laboratories, in your... No. It's programmed to give us trouble, so that we can take impetus from the negative side, and then when we meet the pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, we can have hope that yes, I can get out of this world, I can come to the spiritual world. This is our goal. So we don't want to lose our identity, but we want to change it from false ego to real ego. Those who preach, Vivekananda and these people, they preach yatta majata. It doesn't matter, you can do anything, because ultimately they think we're all one. There's no distinction between you and me, and this is all Maya. And the reality is that we're all one. Then they give the example of a bubble on the ocean. When it breaks, it becomes one with the ocean. But this is not complete philosophy. This is half-truth. Yeah, we can become one with God in quality, but we can never become as great as God. So therefore, we're trained from the beginning. Be a little submissive. When you come to devotional service, you have to submit to the Guru. That instruction is there. To inquire submissively, not challenging. We saw sometimes people were challenging Srila Prabhupada. How could he give them mercy? He was ready to give mercy to everybody, but if you come and were challenging, who do you think you are? Sometimes people are openly envious of Prabhupada like that. One reporter was challenging Prabhupada like that, and Prabhupada said, yes sir, the difference between you and me is in a room full of naked women, I won't be disturbed. And then his friends all were laughing at the reporter because they knew Prabhupada had defeated him. Everybody's disturbed by sex life. But in the spiritual world, we can transcend, because we get a better thing. Param just to devote today. We're not tyagis. Tyagis, they just perform austerity for austerity's sake. In the winter, they go into the cold water. In the summer, they come in front of the fire. And this way, they become very powerful. But this is not our process. Our process is to please Krishna. Sometimes it may be difficult, and sometimes it will be very joyfully. Like this kirtan. This is the process. It's not so difficult. It's joyfully performed. That verse is there. Rajavidya Rajaguya. That this real religion is joyfully performed. And it brings this... what's that? How does it go? 9-2? What's the translation? I can't hear. Sorry, I should know this verse.
This knowledge is the king of...
This knowledge is the king of education.
The most secret of all secrets.
The most secret of all secrets.
It's the purest knowledge.
The purest knowledge.
And because it gives direct perception of the self.
Because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is
the perfection of religion.
Perfection of religion.
It is everlasting and it's joyfully performed.
Everlasting and joyfully performed. So we don't become one with God, we joyfully perform our service to Him in the spiritual world. Isn't that a higher conception than just losing your identity? Like once on the morning walk in Mayapur, Prabhupada, we were going in the field, and Prabhupada said, if I told you to sit down here forever, that you could remain forever, you wouldn't be happy. You want some variety. You want to go to Calcutta and see what's happening. So this is the reality. We're looking for happiness, but happiness is not really there in just merging into the Brahman. It's like spiritual suicide. But most of the yogis and jnanis, they teach that. I was going to yoga class, and the teacher would say to us, we said, be still. He was meditating. He was helping us to meditate. Be still and know that you are God. I said, wow, I never thought I was God. So this is a half-truth. We're God in the sense that nothing is outside of God. So we're a particle of God. So therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us the perfect philosophy. Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva, that we are one with God and also different. So it's inconceivable, but that's our position. Okay, let me read another paragraph. Thank you, Nanda, for performing that. The seventh chapter particularly explains how one can become a fully Krishna conscious person. The beginning of Krishna consciousness is associations of persons who are Krishna conscious. Therefore, Prabhupada gave us association. I saw him taxing his brain, trying to give us association of people, somehow or other, to get inspired by his association. He knew that he was a pure devotee, and that by getting his association, people would benefit. So that was one of the most amazing qualities. Like, he was bending over backwards to engage us, or to give us a chance to serve him. Because he knew if we served him, then Krishna would be pleased. He didn't need anything. He didn't need service, but he would see how he could present so that we would serve. He was giving us service. Like, from the very beginning he was saying, yes, go out and talk to people about Krishna. That's a good service. Worship the deity, very good service. Clean the temple, very good service. Cook for the deity. Clean the pots. He was always trying to engage us in Krishna's service. And so gradually we understand that this is our constitutional position. It's joyfully performed. Okay. Such association is spiritual. Association with Prabhupada was spiritual. And you can still associate with him. He's here in his books and so on. His instructions. Such association is spiritual and puts one directly in touch with the Supreme Lord. And by his grace, one can understand Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the goal. Prabhupada never said he was God. Actually, in the beginning, some 1970, some 4 or 5 sannyasis started preaching that Prabhupada was God. What did Prabhupada do? He threw them out of his movement. And when did I ever say I was God? But the gurus they tell the disciples, or if the disciples call them God, they don't object. But Prabhupada knew that this is the wrong philosophy. He's not God. Krishna is God. But we need somebody who knows Krishna to help introduce us to Krishna. That's the idea. We already have an original relationship with Krishna, but we've forgotten that. So this chanting and this service of the pure devotee like Srila Prabhupada, that will gradually cleanse our heart of the dirty things, Chaito Darpana Marjanam. And then we'll be able to see God within our heart also. So that's an advanced stage, the Dami Buddhi. Tesham Saratam Yuktanam Bhajatam Pritipurvakam. The Dami Buddhi. Krishna says, I will give you the intelligence you can come to me if you are fully devoted to me. So that Prabhupada was never claiming to be God, and he threw those devotees out. He said, travel and preach. If you become purified, then you can come back. So they came back. I think one didn't come back. But they realized Prabhupada was very serious. He didn't want anybody to think he was God. But from the other side, there was one exchange I was having with Prabhupada where he had said that he was the representative of God, and I got like a mystical experience that Prabhupada's not an ordinary person, but he's actually representing God, and he's just sitting in front of me. So the next day when I went to do my service, I said, Srila Prabhupada, I very much like your class last night. And Srila Prabhupada said, oh, what part did you like? And I said, yes, Srila Prabhupada, well, you said you were a representative of God. So he accepted that. Yes. And he said, then he turned it back to me. You can also be a representative of God. When you say, Krishna says, or Prabhupada said, he uses his own name. So he never thought he was God, but he's Sakshat Hari. He's as good as God. And he knew that. He's as good as God because he has nothing except Krishna consciousness to give. So therefore, sometimes we say, if Guru and Gauranga, or a Guru and Krishna come in front of us, we first should touch the Guru's feet. Because he's the one who's extending himself to save us. But again, he doesn't think he's God. But he may do more than God. Like, just for practical point, Bhagavad Gita was available in the Western world for hundreds of years. Thoreau, Emerson, these people had copies of it and they appreciated it. It was a wonderful book. But nobody became a devotee. But that's the clear instruction of Bhagavad Gita. Manmana bhava mad bhakta. Krishna says that in the 9th chapter, again in the 18th chapter. Throughout the whole Gita, Krishna is saying, surrender to me. But nobody was able to do that until we had a pure devotee. He's teaching us by his example. So in one sense, Prabhupada is greater than Krishna. He's growing and doing Krishna's work so nicely that people come to Krishna. That's what Krishna wants. So Guru and Gauranga, Guru and Krishna, we have to understand their oneness and their difference. God is great and we're small. Any questions on that? Okay, let me, it's a long purport. At the same time, one can easily understand the constitutional position of the living entity and how the living entity forgets Krishna and becomes entangled in material activities. So this is a reality. We're entangled in material activities. Everyone. From the richest to the poorest. From the animal to the demigods. They're all engaged in some kind of material activity. And we think this is the most important work. Like the parents are teaching us, no, get an education, that's the most important thing. But what is it? What about education of who I am? That should be the first education. Who I am and why do I suffer? When Sanat Goswami came to Lord Chaitanya, this was his question. Who am I? Kayami. He was Bengali. He said, Kayami. Who am I? And why do I suffer? This is a proper inquiry. This PhD won't stop you from suffering. You'll still get old age, disease, and death. But we're giving a final solution. Transcend this whole material world. Come to the level of the mind. Can you put it here? By gradually development of Krishna consciousness and good association, the living entity can understand that due to forgetfulness of Krishna, he has become conditioned by the laws of material nature. So this is what we should understand. All of you should understand. It may be gradually, but we should understand the living entity, that due to forgetfulness of Krishna, he has become conditioned by the laws of material nature. Who is not conditioned? Everybody. Who could say, I'm not conditioned? Just like we're conditioned that we need to breathe. That's a condition. Otherwise we die. But who's providing the air? So we're dependent eternal. Nicho and Ichanam. There are two eternals. One is dependent, one is independent. So Krishna is independent, but we're dependent. So we should declare our dependence on Krishna. Therefore, we chant his name. We do his work. We want to be more and more dependent on Krishna. Most people think, oh no, I don't want to be dependent on anybody. I want to be independent. It's not possible, Baba. You can't be independent. You need food, you need sunlight. Where do you get that? Oh, that's natural. Whose nature? Krishna says, this is my nature. And so we have an obligation to God. He can understand that human form of life is an opportunity to regain Krishna consciousness and that it should be fully utilized to attain the causeless mercy of the Supreme Lord. So this is our point. Human form of life is a great opportunity. Sorry again, I can do it. Why don't I just put it here on my... This is a great opportunity to make progress in spiritual life. We may not fully succeed in this life, but the nice thing about devotional service, even if we don't succeed in one lifetime, whatever we do, that will remain in our spiritual bank account. So just like all of you coming here tonight, there's a little trouble, you have to come, you have to, pay obeisances and so on. So just by doing that, hearing, instead of, chit-chatting, or running around, or listening to television, or watching television or something, you're sacrificing something for the pleasure of Krishna. So by doing that, you get spiritual credit. That credit can never be taken away from you. And so when it comes more and more full, like Prabhupada was fully engaged in Krishna service. Every moment, even when he was sleeping, he was Krishna conscious. Because why was he sleeping? So his body would be fit, so he could go on serving Krishna. So we can think like that. Everything we should do is for the service of the Lord. Yad karoshi, yad janasi, yad jahosi, yad yad. What is it, 927? You have it? So this is the perfection, when we can do everything for Krishna's pleasure. Okay? Many subjects have been discussed in this chapter. The man in distress, the inquisitive man, the man in want of material necessities, knowledge of Brahman, knowledge of Paramatma, liberation from birth, death, and disease, and worship of the Supreme Lord. However, he who is actually elevated in Krishna consciousness does not care for the different processes. He simply directly engages himself in activities of Krishna consciousness and thereby factually attains his constitutional position as an eternal servant of Lord Krishna. So we can go directly. Prabhupada is so kind that he's giving us a direct process that is joyfully performed. We can experience it, but we have to take it. I tell when I was first coming to Krishna consciousness, I had a dream. I'd been coming for a month or so. And in the dream, I saw that Krishna consciousness was like a big sandwich just in front of me. And all I had to do is bite it. So that's Krishna consciousness. It's very joyfully performed, but we have to take it. It's not going to come and open our mouth and force the food. No. You have your free will eternally. You're a particle of God. He's completely independent. You also have some independence. But that independence really consists of turning to God or turning away from God. When we turn away from God, then we're under the control of His Maya. We're not free. We're not independent. People are clamoring, freedom now, freedom now. You can't get free. Free from the laws of nature is not possible. You have to accept trouble from other living entities, trouble from your own mind and body, trouble from the nature, too cold, too hot. You can't avoid it. It's a troublesome condition. And Krishna certifies that. He says, Dukkalayam Shashrata. Temporary and full of trouble. So we should take that negative impetus to make us more determined to take the positive process. And then it becomes joyfully performed. It is a joyful process. What is the big difficulty? Yeah, we have to get up early in the morning, but that also becomes joyfully performed. That was hard for me when I was first coming. But after 15 or 20 years, I got used to it. And now I see the morning is the best time. You get up before Mangalarti or before sunrise. Everybody is sleeping, but we feel very enlivened, very happy. This is a good time of day, Brahma Muhurta, before sunrise. But of course, most people can't do that. Therefore, we have these temples that facilitate those who are very serious and want to live with us, then we wake them up at 4 o'clock. And then they come, and they gradually get a higher taste. And that's happened to me. I wasn't so young. I was like 26 or 7 when I was first coming. But I changed my bad habits. I was smoking cigarettes. I was running after women. So I gave up my bad habits and became brahmachari. And I have no regrets. That was 55 years ago. I wouldn't change for anything my life. I feel I'm very, very fortunate that I somehow met Srila Prabhupada, and by his mercy I was able to give up my bad habits and take to this process which is giving me eternal hope. Some people say, oh, you don't look 85 or 84, whatever. Because I don't look so old, because my future is bright. Yeah. Most people get old because now they see everything is dwindling. Now I can't enjoy food the way I used to. Now I can't enjoy sex life. So what's the use of living? I saw an article that came, 81-year-old man committed suicide. He jumped out of a high-rise. He had a rich man, he had a big flat on a big building. You have so many buildings here in Bangalore. 18th floor, I think he was. Committed suicide. He wrote a note. Now I have no more future in this world because all my friends are dead and I have nothing to do. So that's what happens generally. But for the devotee, the future is bright. Now we're getting closer to Krishna. And Krishna is reciprocating more. And so it's joyfully performed. So please, become devotees, seriously. It's up to you how much you want to be serious. Nobody's going to force you. Of course, when you move in the temple, you do have some restriction, and you have to get up, and you have to. But that's also voluntary. Nobody's going to force you to move in the temple. But when you move in the temple, then you give up some of your independence. You have to accept authority. Yes, sir. Same thing, like when I joined the Navy, I was in the Navy. Then you give up some of your independence, and you have to come under the authority of the admiral or whoever is in charge. But that's the discipline is there. Temple president has to be able to discipline. Otherwise it becomes crazy. I saw that once. There was one boy was coming to us in London, 1969. But he was a little crazy. But he was dancing, but still, Prabhupada asked me to calm him down at one point when the kirtan was going on. So I kind of touched him. And then, when I was giving massage, sometimes we talked about this person. And I said, because what happened was, after some time, the authorities of the temple asked him to leave the temple. So I mentioned that to Prabhupada, and because we had been talking about this person, and so I was a little disappointed that he was being thrown out. But Prabhupada sided with the authorities. He said, no, we can't allow crazies or lazies to stay in our temple. No crazies, no lazies. If you have to sleep 10 hours, you can't live with us. And then he told a story. He said, just like in the first temple in San Francisco, there was one boy who was living with us. He went into the toilet and he cut his wrist. Blood coming out, police came. Prabhupada said, we can't have people like that staying with us. So we have to filter. Are you crazy? Then please, you can't stay with us. So the responsibility is there on the temple authorities. It's a big responsibility. If you throw out a person who's not disqualified, then you get karma. So we should cooperate with our authorities. There has to be discipline in the ISKCON. Just like even I have to be disciplined. Before coming here, I should get permission from the GBC and so on. I can't just, be renegade and just do whatever I want. We're all under authority of the GBC. That's what Prabhupada wanted. Otherwise, we won't remain united. He was concerned what happened to his Guru Maharaj's mission, that after Srila Bhaktisiddhanta left the planet, instead of doing what he had requested, which was to form a GBC and cooperate together, every sannyasi made his own mat. Now there's almost 100 Gaudiya mats. They're not united. So Prabhupada wanted us to be united. He thought that would be more influential on the world. When we became more and more influential, if we're united, then we can change the habits of people more readily. Just like the Pope, because he's the head of the big Christian organization. If he dies tomorrow, we read it in the headlines. Pope is that. Why? Because there are millions or even billions of people who follow him. So Prabhupada was thinking like that. He wanted to influence the whole world. This is Lord Chaitanya's movement. It's destined to expand more and more for the next 10,000 years. So we have to be ready to accommodate that expansion, which I see is going on very well here in Bangalore. I've just been touring in different cities here, different temples that you have. I'm very impressed. So much enthusiasm, so many people are coming, young boys and girls who are very serious about Krishna consciousness. We didn't see this, even in Prabhupada's time. There weren't this many people joining us and ready to sacrifice. So this is the credit of India, and Prabhupada took credit also, because in the last days, he was very concerned of developing the projects in India. And he was bringing men and money from the West to establish here this movement. And he, especially 3 places, he wanted to establish before he left his body: Vrindavan, Bombay, Juhu, and Mayapur. So he put men and money into that. From the West, they came, a lot of money to build a Gurukul in Vrindavan and so on. And now we see that that money was well spent, because in the beginning, I was here. The Indian people in general, they thought we were bogus. They thought we were CIA they thought they were drug yatupa. No, they were saying Dhammaru Dham, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram. There was some movie like that about smoking marijuana. So we didn't have such a good reputation. Not many good men were joining, but now I see so many intelligent people coming to Krishna consciousness. So this movement can expand very rapidly now, especially here in India. So let's not get in the way of the expansion, at least. Okay, any questions? I'll read the verse once more. Did I finish the purport?
No, one more paragraph.
Oh my God. So where am I? Glorify the Supreme Lord in pure devotional service. He is convinced that by his doing so, all his objectives will be fulfilled. This determined faith is called Dridhavrataha, and is the beginning of Bhakti Yoga, or transit to loving service. This is the verdict of all the scriptures. This 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is the substance of that conviction. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport to the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita in the matter of knowledge of the Absolute. And the verse, again, sorry, translation. Thus, in full consciousness of me, those in full consciousness of me, who know me, the Supreme Lord, to be the governing principle of the material world, or material manifestation, of the demigods, and of all methods of sacrifice, can understand and know me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even at the time of death. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Okay, questions? Yes, sir. You need a microphone? Should we give a microphone?
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you for the wonderful class. Maharaj, you were mentioning about the authority should all be under authority.
Say it.
We should all be under authority.
Yeah.
Authority.
Those who are living in the temple. I mean, if the temple is providing you room and board and feeding you, then you should feel obliged. I'm a temple devotee. I should work as the temple wants me to work.
So sometimes, I like some other service, but temple authority may give some other service.
No, then you can stay at home and do your service. No. We don't say we have a monopoly on Krishna consciousness. You can keep your house very nice. You have a deity there. You offer your food there. That's okay. There's no force, but if you're going to live in a temple, there has to be some discipline. Prabhupada was strict, was very clear on this point. Anyone else? Mataji's? Yes.
Speaking about discipline, how to have discipline in Grihastha ashram?
How to have what?
Discipline.
Discipline. You have to see the necessity. You have to see that your mind is not your friend, it's carrying you here and there. So you have to discipline it with intelligence. So then, the next step is, yes, let me be disciplined under the guidance of the spiritual master. We read that verse. What is 434? We have to inquire submissively. The word submissively is used. We can't challenge. We have to come submissively and render service. Then the spiritual master will be inclined to us and he'll reciprocate. He'll give us knowledge and devotion. So the discipline is needed. Otherwise, the mind is our guru. Since time immemorial, we've been following our mind. And the mind is controlled by the senses for the most part. But above the mind and the senses is intelligence. So with intelligence, we're looking for intelligent players, of people who will appreciate that Krishna consciousness is the best thing for them. And so they take it. But again, if you have responsibilities in your house or your children, we don't say you should just throw everything away and join the temple. Prabhupada didn't approve of that. If you have responsibilities to wife and children, you have to fulfill those responsibilities. But not up to the point of death. The Vedic system is that after the children are grown up, the parents can become into vanaprastha and they can travel and preach, but no more sex life. And then at the last stage, it's advised that the man takes sannyas. That's the Vedic culture. So again, discipline is required for anything. You want to get a PhD? How hard do you have to work? You want to be a medical doctor? You have to study all these books and get trained by the other medical doctors. To do anything, there has to be some discipline. You want to be an Olympic star? How much discipline is required? You have to run every day if you're a runner, and to keep in shape and then to perform. And so hard they have to work. And what do they get? One little gold medal, if they're very, generally you don't get a gold medal. But what are we getting? We're getting Krishna. He's ready to give himself to us, like he did to Arjuna. He becomes a chariot driver. The Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes a servant of his devotee. So what are we asking for? And what is the gold medal compared to that? So discipline is required in any field. That's okay, sir? Anyone else? What time is it now? 8:30? We could have another kirtan. Like a 5-minute kirtan. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Stand up. Come on, move this out of the way. Nirvishesha Dunyavari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaur Krishnanda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaur Krishnanda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hey, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Ram Ram Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Nitai Gaura, Hare Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, More Pramananda. So any questions? Therefore we say joyfully perform. This is not so difficult. It's joyfully performed, right? Everybody's joyful now because singing and dancing the name of the Lord makes you joyful. A little austerity is there. You have to come. You have to try the chanting. We recommend also that you chant on your beads and listen attentively. So a little trouble, but the kirtan is the best. There's no trouble. Anybody can come off the street and be dancing with us. But to do it every day, that requires a little determination. Anyway, thank you very much. Nadam Tula, my servant, disciple, he wants to give you one of my books, if you like to.